Hey everybody, Wes here from Fundamental Games, here to share with you another Fun in 5. Bringing you today Azul. Azul, it's an abstract tile-laying puzzle strategy game for 2 to 4 players, and I've had a lot of fun with this with the family, learning how to figure out the different rotations and patterns on the tiles that we have here. So let's figure out, why do I think this game is fun? First off, the tiles themselves. Everybody loves good components. If you played Splendor or you played any games where the components really stand out, this is one of those games. Just the very thick feel of these acrylic tokens sound good even though you never have to shake them, but in the bag, and they feel nice and clunky on here. When you go to pick them up, there's a nice tactile sense to them, and sometimes that just seems frivolous. Why do you need that? It could have just had cardboard tokens, but there's just something about it that adds to the quality and the feel and the look of the game that really makes Azul stand out from some other abstract games. So really love that. It's something every member of the family loves, and it just draws our attention to the game when we're playing. Second up is the scoring system. So you'll see here there's a 4-player game set up here, and in the game, whether it's 2 players or 4 players, the scoring system is always the same, and I'll bring it up on the screen here. But basically, you will score based on how many rows you have, how many columns you have, and how many of tiles you have that are all the same color at the end of the game. But you're also going to earn scoring progressively throughout the game based on placing tiles adjacent to one another and not accruing negative penalties. So it's kind of neat how you can culminate points throughout the game, and then at the end of the game you get some bonus points. And trying to mathematically figure out the best strategy for that throughout the entire game is the whole fun aspect of it, is just thinking throughout the whole game. And you might think it's not fun to think, but actually that is the funnest part of the game, is really trying to figure out what can I possibly do to get the most points based on the tiles I see in front of me and the board that I'm working with. And everybody could be playing with the exact same board if you're playing with side 1, but then you could flip the board and everybody could kind of do their own thing while still following a very strict set of rules to develop their scores. So just love the scoring system. It's what makes Azul, second to the tiles, of course. Third thing we like is the subtle player versus player aspect to it. So any game where you're playing against one another for points, there is a little bit of PvP. And again, multiplayer solitaire is a term commonly used for games that you have very little influence on your opponents. And this game is kind of like that, where you don't have a ton of influence on them, but when you do, it really does make an impact. So if I plan to try to take the most of a certain color tile, it could hurt my opponent who's been waiting for those tiles to build up their last row and try to finish the game. Or I might intentionally grab the -1 player token so that I can make sure I go first next turn, which could help me kind of influence the game and plan things out. So there's a lot of little things that you can do that will manipulate how your opponents are affected, or just controlling the flow of the game, because the first player who gets 5 tiles in a row will basically end the game. And so any other player that was trying to go for a longer strategy may suffer because of that. So there's some player versus player there, but it's all very subtle. You're not stealing other people's tiles directly off their boards. You're not blowing things up. You're not preventing them from getting tiles, other than everything everybody can see in front of them. You can always count tiles and know if you're going to have any chance at all of getting a certain color tile down the road. So that subtle PvP, very fun quality of the game. Next one is just the overall visuals. Now I know I've talked about the tiles, and those are a great part, but the overall visual, I mean, you look at the boards that the tiles are placed on, they're just very simple cardboard disc, but they add a nice visual element to it. I'll just pick this up here. I'll show one on the screen here, but these boards, nice, thick, sturdy, but they're also just got that kind of subtle coloring to them, so it feels like a mosaic that you're putting together. And if you play with the opposite side, then it gives you a bit more freedom on how to place your tiles, and that visual can be very nice. The visual of the bag, the visual of the box, it's all very stunning and makes the game feel more fun than it really could be if it had been a much blander game, because it really is an abstract game, and sometimes those can feel boring. But just the visuals, the colors, the tactiles, it all gels perfectly in this game. And of course, the last thing is that it is an abstract game. It's very fast to learn. The rulebook itself is only a couple of pages long and walks you through different examples, so that's a good thing about it. And the strategy, you pick up pretty quickly. I mean, being perfect at this game will take a lot of plays, but understanding the game only takes 1 or 2 players to really get an idea of understanding what I should draft for the tiles, when I should draft them, when I should be filling up rows and whatnot. So fast to learn, and the games themselves go pretty quick once everybody is familiar with it. So I like that it is abstract. It's different than many of the games that I play, whether it's Scythe or Great Western Trail or Concordia. Those are all very, very thinky games with a lot of theme put into them. This is just a simple abstract understanding. You could put any theme on top of this and it still would have worked, but the one that they have really does work well. So I love that abstract feel, and that the family can try something different rather than those heavy thinky games. This game is very thinky, but in a different way. So those are some things that I think are fun about Azul. My family has had a lot of fun playing this one. We haven't brought it to the table for a while because we have been busy with some other thinky games and legacy games, but it's one that I would never say no to playing, and hopefully you get a chance to as well. Thanks for watching.